Peace and wellness to the family. Let's take a walk. This next discussion will be on the premise of a quantum truth. What I mentioned in my last video about when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. Now, I'm one to believe that this has a lot to do with perception and perspective. Now, what do I mean by this? I'm one to admit that my perception in the past about life was very jaded. It had little to do with who I truly was, being empathetic towards other people's feelings, being in touch with my true emotions, and self-imagery. My self-image and concept were very much based off of a false sense of who I thought that I was and the life that I thought I was supposed to be living. And that all had to do with my thought patterns, the things that I experienced, and the emotions that I felt. I became those emotions, not understanding how to alchemize them. But when I changed the way that I looked at things, when I changed my perspective, when I say perception, that is how I view things. I view things from my perception of how I see them based off of what's going on the inside, in my inner world. So if my inner world is full of self-hatred, lack of guidance, self-limiting beliefs, anger, lack of emotional reactivity, violent behaviors, self-doubt, then that is what I'm going to be projecting out. It might not be obvious to the one who sees me because I can put on a smile. But only we know what is going on truly on the inside. And when we're easily triggered, gaslighted, we become a slave to those that know that they can push a button to get a certain reaction out of you. Because we're not thinking about how we think. We're thinking about how other people think. And that takes you out of control and you become a slave. Now, perspective is when we can put ourselves in someone else's shoes and say, that's an interesting perspective. You believe that I'm a terrible person. You believe that I'm a great person. You believe that I'm selfish, only think about myself, a narcissist, a great author, a very well-presented man when it comes to business. All of that is a perspective that I can empathize with because it's yours. It has nothing to do with what I think about myself. And I'm more concerned about what I think about myself. That's all that matters. The true spirituality comes from the self-discovery journey that you put yourself on, having the bravery to truly want to discover who you are to the core of you. So who are you to the core of you? What is your most valuable skill? What do you love to do? What brings you internal happiness? Because that is ultimately what you're going to project out, which would make one's perspective invalid. But when you change the way that you look at things, you can still empathize with that person's perspective because it has nothing to do with you, but more so what's going on in the inside of them. Now, I believe that this has a lot to do with separation being an illusion. Everybody has their own internal wars and battles that they're fighting. The more that we can be aware and raise our awareness of this and understand that people only view you as far as they can view themselves. That is when you can change the way that you look at things. And then the things that you look at all change. As of now, I'm out here in nature. I see the trees, the leaves, the grass. But more deeply, if I change the way that I looked at nature on a level of sacred geometry, the leaves, the separation between the leaves, the veins in the leaf, everything is in order. Everything is under some sort of control effortlessly. Everything is doing without actually doing anything. Just existing. Just being. Now, I remember being out in nature and being irritated by the insects. The sun is beaming too hard on my skin. Couldn't be out too long. I want to go out. I want to go back inside. This is too much. My connection with nature was non-existent. But the more I started eating from earth, from the ground, live foods, the more I raised my consciousness to see there is no separation. And it was detrimental. Through my separation with nature, because I believe that is the decline and downfall and demise of mankind when we lost our connection to nature. It's all directed to planetary wellness. Now that I changed my perspective and how I look at nature, this is the best place that I would want to be. I find myself sometimes going through the obstacles and hardships of life to where it's hard for me to come out into nature. I don't feel like it. I'm just not feeling like I want to even go out. A lot of it may have to do with financial strain, self-doubt, obstacles in life that take me away from what truly makes me prosperous. But one who promotes prosperity must prosper in return. Now, a lot of this mental chatter and a lot of these mental restraints that I'm putting on myself is an eternal war of how I'm perceiving things. Now, once I sit, meditate, warn myself, get a better grasp of what I know is what's best for me, then I know that it's a fight with my lower self to know that, no, you know what is good for you, to be out in the elements of nature, to connect with it, to listen to the birds, to appreciate the sacred geometry of growth, roots, foundation, oxygen breathing, the intelligence of plants, plant intelligence, and how you're connected to it because you speak into them, because you are putting that into your biochemistry. These are living beings that you're indulging. You're not eating dead flesh. You think that these plants don't know that? They do. These plants absorb sunlight to create food for themselves. You consume the plant and fill yourself with energy. Why is it that I'm having trouble with coming out in nature when I know these things? It's all a psychological warfare that we all go through. The key is to stay out of that state of mind and to remember the quantum truth of when you change the way that you look at things, the things that you look at do change.